Hello Wolfpack, another day, another piece of evidence to suggest that Bitcoin is not going to do what the Moon Boys want it to do. I hate to say it, I'd love the market to go up, I make way more money and I'd gain way more followers if it did, but however, it just simply doesn't look like it's going to happen. I mean, what we have here on a macro scale is the opposite of what we saw in May to July. Let me shut down that tab there. The opposite of what we saw in May to July. In May to July, we saw a descending channel formation with, as you can see, descending volume, clearly descending volume, and right now we're seeing an ascending channel formation with slightly descending volume. We are seeing the opposite thing as what we saw in May to July right now, which means we will probably get the opposite result. What was the result in May to July? Resulted in a big move. What was the result here? Well, it's probably going to result in a big move down, right? It's very simple. It's actually very simple. I don't really understand why people break it down, so much. They try to make it something that's not. In reality, this is the reality, right? This is a very simple reality of the situation. Descending wet channel, ascending channel. That's all you need to know about it, right? And then you can dive into macro, dive into the 4-year cycle, dive into all of that stuff, and further enforce that bearish opinion. And what we're seeing here on Bitcoin, I'm going to look at the weekly charts now because the main part of this video is a weekly chart, is something that we have seen before to the T. And right now nothing is happening that hasn't happened before on Bitcoin, and that sounds so strange to people because you'd think that if the market was bullish right now, you'd be seeing things that potentially may not have happened before, because you need to see some sort of upswing. If we're in a macro bear market, we've just topped out the 4-year cycle, you want to be seeing things that haven't happened before to validate that. Now 4-year cycle, as you can see, has played out perfectly. You can pause the video here and read all of these color-coded text box, and you can see the trend is clearly confirming that the November top was in fact the actual top for Bitcoin as suggested by the 4-year cycle theory. And so the bulls basically want something to happen that is not expected to happen, right? They want Bitcoin to move up. For example, let's go to the weekly chart. They want it to move up above the 50-week SMA, which is this red line. Clearly, and hold above it. We moved above for one candle. We formed an evening star formation on top of it, and we actually lost it for support, which means that it's even more bearish than just rejecting off of it, because we actually got above it. Everyone thought it was good, everyone was bullish, and then realized it was a bull trap, and then we dropped right back down below it. So, realistically, that's what we need to be seeing. A weekly close above the 50-week. We'd also need to be seeing, in my opinion, a daily close above the 200-day SMA, this green line. And if you wanted to be very conservative, you could say we also need to be seeing a breakout of this ascending channel formation, because as you guys would know, an ascending channel formation is a bearish structure. Now, there is the argument to be made that this is a bear flag. I would probably agree with this argument. However, I would say it's a bear flag from the December highs rather than the November highs, because we had a period of consolidation here that actually bounced out to form a higher high. So I wouldn't say that's part of the bear flag. I'd say the bear flag is stemming. I'd say that the bear flag is actually stemming from 52k rather than from 69k, right? Because again, the higher high formed there in December kind of throws me off. And so applying that, and if we actually stem that down to the bottom of the channel here at 35k, we can apply that to the breakout zone, suggesting, supposing it breaks out, say 3 days from now, we can see that is targeting around 22.5k to 23k. Right, which is interesting because what else is in that region? Well, as suggested by the 4-year cycle theory, we will be bottoming out on the 200-week SMA, which is currently, guess what, at 21.5k, and if we were to get there within the next couple of months, it would be at 22.5k as suggested by that. However, I'm suggesting, as per the 4-year cycle theory, that we will bottom out on Bitcoin most likely in November to December at 24k, and it could be any time before November to December, for sure. However, I think the most likely bottom region is November to December. What I would suggest, and what I would tell you to do though, is don't take the dates too literally, take the price point literally. Because it's for 200-week SMA we have a lot of data on, right? We've spent, on Bitcoin, 15 months total riding the 200-week SMA, this green line here. And so that's the thing we have the data on. We don't necessarily have that much data on the dates regarding it. We have a data on the actual price point in which we will be bottoming out. And so, that's another thing for people who are saying, well, what, we can't go below 30k again. If war couldn't push us below 30k, what can? It's like, well, a recession can. And how's that? Well, it's like we haven't seen a recession before. And also, the 4-year cycle can, right? This isn't something we haven't seen before to begin with, because, well, look, we did it in 2013, 2014, we did it in 2018, 2019, we did it in the COVID drop. All of those times we bottomed out, we did not close a weekly candle below the 200-week SMA. Right? We've done it on 4 separate occasions for 15 months total. We can definitely do it again. That is a mindset that will get you wrecked in this market. The mindset that it can't go there again. It can't do it. It can't do it. It definitely can. Get that out of your head. That is a deadly mindset that is going to get you wrecked. I've been telling people this for since 63k, right? At 63k on Bitcoin, I came out and said, this is a bear market, this doesn't look good, sell all your assets, essentially, right? Not many people listened to me at that point. More people started listening to me. We got to 53k, 48k, then we dropped below 40k. People started listening. But at this point, it's ridiculous for people to believe that we can't go below 30k. It's like, of course we can go below 30k. And then there's people who are part of, who are saying this is accumulation. It's like, okay, if you want to argue that what we're seeing right now is accumulation, first of all, you're neglecting the fact that it's a bear flag formation. Second of all, you're neglecting the fact that it has descending volume while seeing higher highs and higher lows. That's not accumulation, right? And then third of all, if you want to be this little macro player, you have to understand that actually, accumulation, as you call it, in a high price point relative to the macro situation is not called accumulation, it's called distribution, right? It's called distribution. So get all of that out of your head. It's ridiculous to believe this is accumulation, and it's ridiculous to believe that it can't go down. Now, whether it will go down or not is a different question, but it certainly can. In a time when government regulation constantly threatens crypto investors, being able to access an exchange without KYC being mandatory is absolutely exceptional. This is great for me personally as an Australian because a lot of other exchanges out there like Binance don't allow me to access options due to Australian regulation. BitGet additionally is also host to trading fees even lower than the vast majority of the major exchanges at just 0.2% per trade. Sign up to BitGet using my referral link in the pinned comment below or the description box and you will receive up to 153 USD deposited into your account as a reward. Now, this is where the video is going to get a little bit interesting, right? We have the weekly chart here on Bitcoin. We're comparing it to the 2018 cycle. As of right now, the current price action is very much like the 2018 cycle, okay? And so what we're seeing, much like 2018, is the fact that, well, first and foremost, okay, look at this, okay? So we have a break below the bull market support band. We tested it here, just like here in 2022. We dropped below it, had an accumulation period below it, jumped back up, briefly got above it, just like right here, and now we are coming down, right? And we've come down and we've actually come back up and tested again, just like on the last weekly candle. And what we can assume can happen at this point is a few more weeks of sideways consolidation before a relatively sizable crash down on Bitcoin. Now, whether it takes us down to the 200-week SMA or not is a different question. I don't think it will because that's pretty far away at this point. But the point is, we're coming up to a period in time, and as I've been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks, I think there will be a sizable correction on Bitcoin in May. I think there will be. Now, as I said, whether that takes us down to the 200-week or not, that's a different question because I think we're going to get to the 200-week around November, December. But May is going to be a red month for Bitcoin. And not only does the TA suggest that, but the macro suggested as well. Interest rates are going to go up by 50 basis points, most likely, as suggested by Jerome Powell. We haven't seen that in 20 years, right? So that's undeniably negative. And then looking at the 3-day chart, this is further supported by another thing, right? We have the 50 and the 200 on the 3-day chart here. As seen in 2018, we saw extensive consolidation between these two things, bouncing and bouncing and bouncing between it, compressing and compressing and compressing. They finally came to a T, and on the day that they crossed, Bitcoin jumped down 50%. Okay, same exact thing is happening here on Bitcoin, except this time it's even more bearish because we're in an ascending channel formation. Okay, let's remove that channel and just look at the lines here. Okay, so just like 2018, bouncing and bouncing and bouncing between it, compressing and compressing and compressing. Eventually, they're going to come to a T. That's going to happen in mid-May, and there will be a correction just like in 2018, most likely. Obviously, it's not certain, but it's most likely. There are similarities here. They're undeniable. Okay, so when we're looking at, for example, the weekly chart again, all right, let's take away all these drawing lines here. And when we bring up the fact that, well, not only is there a trend with the bull market support band, there's also a trend with the 50-week SMA, in which we lose the 50-week, we consolidate below in 2022, we come back up above it, briefly test it, and then reject below again, right? So we lose the 50-week, come back up above it, briefly test it, and then lose it again, right? And then we just sideways consolidate and crash, sideways consolidate and crash, right? Very similar price action going on here. Very similar price action. And then on top of all of this, if you're looking at like the DXY, right? Why is the DXY going up? It's because companies, institutions, the same institutions that you think are holding Bitcoin 24/7 are actually selling all their assets for cash. They're flocking into cash because it's risky to be in risk-on assets at the moment going into a recession, right? So, there's not much argument to be made for a bullish, scenario on the TA or the macro. And then we're looking at something like the weekly chart here, a different scenario here. And this is more evidence for a May crash. You can notice where these lines are, where the circles are. In the past two times on a macro situation where the 50 has crossed under the 75, we have seen Bitcoin in a major correction bottoming on the 200. That's going to be happening in around 2 weeks. Okay, so very interesting stuff to keep in mind here, all of which are negative. And then on the daily chart, breaking it down to even all the way back to the daily chart, what we can see as well is that Bitcoin has seen a doji formation, which is bearish, followed by a terrible candle. You wouldn't even call that anything. It doesn't really have a name, but massive wick to the upside, and then another retest of the channel support. Right now, we're still holding that channel, and so it's still technically a neutral kind of structure in right now on the short term, but there's no denying that's a bearish candle. There's no denying Bitcoin is in a bearish structure overall, and I would expect, as I said, over and over again, within a couple of weeks, Bitcoin will be trending downwards towards this dotted line, and probably a week after that, it will probably be trending downwards towards 30k during May, right? May is not going to be a good month. I would expect by the end of May, Bitcoin has lost both this line and this line here, and it's either at this green box or heading downwards towards it, right? And I've been saying that for over and over and over again for weeks. That's not a new prediction. I'm not changing anything I've said. I've said that for weeks. I said in May, Bitcoin will be at this green box testing it. That's what I've said. And so going back to the weekly chart, I've just forgotten to mention something as well. If we want to just delete everything on the weekly chart, and then we can bring up something like the Gaussian channel. Okay, the Gaussian channel is interesting as well. What you'll notice is that I think in 2013 as well, we don't have it on this chart, but I think so it's the same case. In 2018 as well, after we rejected from the bull market support band, which was here, we saw a few weeks of consolidation before the Gaussian channel flipped red, and 2 weeks after it flipped red, we saw that correction. Okay, what can we see happening here? The Gaussian channel is leveling out, and it's about to flip red in about 2 weeks, right? Which is interesting, right? Because we just rejected from the bull market support band. Just like 2018, when that thing turns red, there most likely will be a correction on Bitcoin. Okay, not very good things going on here for Bitcoin, and I suppose we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Now, I don't want to make any short-term price predictions because I think the short-term's not only irrelevant, but it's also very hard to predict, right? I don't think the short-term is necessarily, very easy to predict. But what I can say is that if we remove all these drawings here, what I can say is that what I've been saying over the past few days is that Bitcoin has a major amount of resistance above it right now, right? And by above it, I mean between here and 43k. We have the Gaussian channel, the 75 SMA, the bull market support band, the 50 SMA, the Bollinger Band center line at the 20-day SMA. Lots of stuff above us right here, which explains why we're rejecting so strongly from that region. And yes, I would say it's unlikely that Bitcoin breaks above 43k at this point, right? I think that the top is in not only in the dead cat bounce region at 48k, I think the top's in there, but I also think the top is most likely in at 43k. I don't think Bitcoin's going to go above 43k again. Probably until, we've seen the bottom of a 200-day SMA, 200-week SMA. However, forget about the short-term predictions. That's an irrelevant prediction, right? Because it doesn't actually matter. Because until we break out of this macro bearish structure, any short-term prediction is irrelevant. It's the macro that I care about, right? I don't care about whether Bitcoin breaks above 43k or not. I care about whether Bitcoin breaks out of this channel to the upside or out of the channel to the downside. So, take these little predictions, these short-term predictions with a grain of salt because they don't mean anything, right? I'm concerned about the macro situation right now. The macro situation does not look good on Bitcoin. Simple. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Check out the Crypto Academy. Me and MegaWell have made a trading course. If you want to learn how to trade, you can go on the website in the pinned comment below. Check out the course. Email us, chuck us an email. We'll send you a course structure overview, and you can just check it out for yourselves and make a decision. Cheers. Thanks for watching.